Hi again. Continuing with military aviation. And Rowland White has specialized in books on military aviation. And we've previously reviewed his Vulcan 607. And he returns to the Falklands with his latest book, Harrier 809. And the book covers the amazing Harrier jump jet aircraft. It covers the deployment and how it was used down in the Falklands, and it covers the intelligence war. So the Harrier was developed by the Hawker company, later Hawker Siddeley, who were famous for the wartime Hurricane and the Hawker Hunter fighter, which were both very, very successful designs. And they wanted to really push the boundaries. Now, there are several aircraft which have really pushed the boundaries. The Lockheed Blackbird SR-71 flew higher and faster than anything else, and it's now being scrapped, but there's nothing in existence that competes with it. The Concorde, supersonic airliner, and the Harrier. And the thing about the Harrier is a completely vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. They had to overcome a lot of problems, but they got it working. Hawker Siddeley was absorbed by British Aerospace. So the Harrier was in service with the Royal Air Force as mainly a ground attack aircraft. And the idea was during the Cold War, you could disperse it to forest clearings and so on near the German border, and it could be used tactically. And it was also adopted by the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm. And one of the interesting developments was the ski jump modification to carriers, which allowed the Harrier to take off. Because the vertically taking off, although it can do that, obviously, if you want to carry maximum fuel and maximum ordnance, then it's better if it takes off with a run, and the ski jump provided that. So, tremendously fantastic aircraft. And just as a little anecdote, I was at the Paris Air Show. I was working for Boeing, and there was a display of the Harrier, and I was standing watching it through a big picture window, and in front of me was an American couple, and the Harrier was doing a thing where it turns 360 degrees and then dips its nose and bows to the crowd. And the lady said to her husband, what kind of aeroplane is that? And he said, I don't really know, honey, but I think it's a British aircraft. And it made me feel really proud because there's nothing else like it in the world. Of course, it was adopted by the US Marines. And so the book goes on to discuss how the Harrier was used in the Falklands. And what they had to do was get a third, they sent two squadrons down. They had to stand up a third squadron, which was 809, and sort of get guys from here, there, and everywhere. And they actually got a couple of RAF pilots and attached them, and they had to learn how to operate from carriers and so on. And another big boost to it was the Sidewinder missile, the AIM-9 Lima, which had fantastic capabilities and really made the Harrier very, very lethal in air-to-air combat. So while everyone was preparing, the big threat down in the Falklands was the Argentinians' Air Force and Naval Air Force Super 8 Andad aircraft. And they had other types down there as well. But the Super 8 Andad was seen which was a French design, very much state of the art. So the French also had supplied them with the Exocet anti-ship missile. And to the credit of the French government, cut off further supplies of the missile and also support, technological support. But there was a guy, a rebel within the Dassault factory, who on the sly contacted the Argentinian guys and passed on information that they would need to get the Exocet fully operational. And another thing that the French did was they sent over a French pilot with a Super 8 Standard, and he introduced it to the Harrier guys, and they compared notes and did some exercises against each other to see the capabilities. And it was actually bad news. It seemed that the 8 Standard had the edge. Turned out operationally down south it didn't, but the initial trials seemed to suggest that. The United States also offered a great deal of help, from supplying Stinger missiles to satellite information and so on, and a lot of back channel work. So they really did come through. A lot of it was due to the relationship between President Reagan and Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. So the new squadron 809, to get down there, they used the ship, the Atlantic Conveyor, which was a cargo carrier, and they configured the containers on the deck to provide a landing area. It was in Liverpool at the time, and they had to refit it and sent it off down south. And of course, the Atlantic Conveyor was one of the ships hit with the next set later on. So as the action unfolded, there was a lot of engagements, a lot of they were flying combat air patrols to protect the Royal Navy Task Force, and they did see a lot of action, a lot of engagements. As I mentioned, the other part of the book is the intelligence war, and Chile became a significant ally, helped us a lot, because they actually have enmity with Argentina. They share a border, and there was a tremendous amount of activity. We sent radar installations down there to act as early warning. There was things like C-130, excuse me, RAF C-130 landing on a road in Chile instead of an airstrip, and there was an Operation Folklore, which I don't think has been written about before. Rowland White wrote about it in this book, which was the Canberra deployments, and they had a whole plan to get early warning and airborne surveillance flying from Chile. And unfortunately, the Daily Star newspaper broke a story saying we were supplying fast jets to Chile, and kind of had half the truth and published it. Totally irresponsible journalism in a war or a conflict situation, and that plan had to be scrapped. There were special forces operations that the book covers. Operation Plum Duff and Mikado, where B Squadron 22 SAS were, in the case of Plum Duff, deployed. In the case of Mikado, got as far as Ascension. Not really the scope of this review to talk about that, but it's all public domain stuff. But it's a big part of the history of special forces in the Falklands. The Argentinian pilots proved to be very skilled and very aggressive, and they delivered a lot of ordnance on target. And fortunately for us, a lot of it didn't explode, even though there was a lot of kinetic damage just due to the impact. Had all the missiles and bombs they delivered onto the targets exploded, I think we would have lost the war. In the event, it was a damn close run thing. So all of Rowland White's books have been fascinating. He did a book about the Lockheed Blackbird, by the way, which gives the history of that particular very significant aircraft. But I always found his books interesting, and I think you'll find this one. There's so much I didn't know about the Falklands, and it's a well written about war, and the personalities, the pilots, the naval aviators, and the carrier crews, and so on. It's a fascinating story and very significant to our history.